Hello heathens, and welcome to my very messy desk. Hope you guys are doing great today. This is probably going to be on a longer side video. Today I am doing a candle demonstration, both for carving, but as well as putting some extra oomph into it. This candle ritual is meant for bringing strength to the healthcare community. If you've tuned into this channel before, and if you've seen my community healing ritual, this is something kind of sort of along the same lines, but targeted specifically for the healthcare and workers who are on the front line, because let's face it, they need the most help right now. I know before I did a ritual to bring healing to everyone, and I'm not sure if it helped or not. That's not for me to know. But it was something that I put out there with pure intention and hope that it would. So today is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to not only be showing you blending an herb mixture, but I'm also going to be making an ultimate sacrifice, which some people probably will not have ever done or heard of doing before, but something that I have done before when it comes to doing candle magic, especially when doing something that you're really looking for help as soon as possible. So this is going to take a bit. If this isn't something new that you might be interested in learning, I encourage you to pause here and go get a snack of some sort. We're going to be here for a bit. And also, before I progress, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and set that bell to all to be notified of when I release new videos. Okay? So before I get into the carving of the candle or anything of that nature, I wanted to prepare my herb blend. Now, I will have, by the time this video airs, released a video for preparing cascarilla powder, which you will see some remnants down at the bottom. For the most part, I removed it and have it reserved to the side. But there's always going to be some remnants of whatever stuff you've done in your mortar and pestle still there, no matter how well you clean it. So right now I'm just adding in some linden flowers. Linden flowers is frequently for love, but what I'm doing right now, my intention in adding herbs that are for love, is basically sending love to this community and trying to help them as best as I can. Rose hips aren't just for love purposes, but they are also good for healing in those who are seeking good luck. It's said to be of use for calling good spirits and seeking their aid. The reason why I'm adding this is I'm literally calling in spiritual helpers to help bolster the medical community on the front line during this time. Dragon's blood resin is for protection. as I'm using them, I'm putting them back in the box behind me. Lavender is not just for calming, because let's face it, there's a lot of stress going on, but it also is an excellent herb for healing. You can also add it to sachets or mojo bags if you're looking to draw love, but for this specific purpose, my intention for this specific ritual is for healing purposes. Hawthorn berry has 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. When it comes to things like that, I tend to do them in multiples of 3s. With regards to the loose herbs or what is it? The resin, it's not something I worry about as much, but when it comes to things like berries, I do. This is vervain. This is verbena hastata, not the verbena that I covered in a video, although I will probably link the verbena that I did make a video on somewhere around here. This is agrimony. It is used to treat wounds. You don't need a lot of each herb, especially when you're doing a candle. Just a little bit of each can be all you need. This is a little bit of black cohosh, which, if I recall correctly, is another one for healing. I had brushed up on the herbs before I started the video, and then of course as soon as you hit start, that's when you go blank. This is goldenrod. It is supposed to help in bringing good fortune to you. It's supposed to also have energetic benefits. For the purposes of this, I'm trying to bring good fortune to the medical community as a whole with regards to treating people and getting the help that they also need and the backup assistance. Pennyroyal is for purification and protection as well. And of course with the remnants of the cascarilla powder, which are supposed to be for keeping the peace. And in this instance, my purpose is so that people are able to keep a clear mind. Rosemary is generally used in love magic, but it's also used for healing. Most herbs that you get are going to have some sort of healing properties to them. It just may target it in different ways. I was going to use a pink candle for this, which I know is generally used for love because I'm sending love and healing to this community. Cassia bark is for love. But when I thought on it, I felt that the candle that was more appropriate for it was the gray or silver candle. White tends to be a color of purification. Black in color magic tends to be a color of protection. White can be used universally, but in general it's for purification. But more than that, the color silver is supposed to help get rid of blockages. Frequently when you look up the color, and I'll probably put some edited information in here because I'm sure I'm not getting it 100% right. But frequently when people think of gold and silver, they think of money rituals, which frequently they are. I'm just putting in a small piece of the raíz de anamu, which is supposed to, if you were to take it as a tonic or drink it as a tea, which I am not telling you to do, please do not do that, especially if you are on medications of any kind. You don't want to do this stuff without proper supervision, but it's supposed to help boost your immune system, and it's also supposed to help with respiratory issues. And given the nature of this illness, I felt it was appropriate, especially where so many in the medical community are in fact becoming ill from it themselves. I also, before I added anything else, I smoke cleansed everything, all of my tools, the candle holder, my entire space here. I always recommend doing that before you start anything. Right now what I'm doing is I'm working to crush the berries and the roots up, especially because you want them to be in smaller pieces if you can, and something just went flying. I also added in a couple leaves of white sage. Before anyone comes at me in the comments about cultural appropriation with white sage, I am very knowledgeable with regards to the act of smudging. I purchased my white sage from the Native American community in the effort to help support it, and also to make sure that the herb is not only properly cultivated but properly managed, so that I'm not putting a strain on the wild white sage that can face. The wild white sage can sometimes be endangered depending on who you ask or what resources you look at. However, it is also an herb that is cultivated by the indigenous community in an effort to not only preserve it, continue being propagated, and so it helps support their own community. Now, with regards to smudging, what some people may not know is there are actually 4 herbs when it comes to smudging, not just white sage. When it comes to the act of smudging, there is white sage to help get rid of any negative or heavy energy. Then there's sweetgrass to bring in positive energy. And then there's also cedar and tobacco, which off the top of my head I forget their correlation for, mainly because when it comes to smudging, frequently the only communities that will have access to unadulterated tobacco, one that hasn't been sprayed with chemicals, one that hasn't been tainted in some way, is in fact the indigenous community. So with regards to the herbs that I will usually use, it's usually a blend of white sage, sweetgrass, and cedar. But I'm just trying to crush things up a bit, not only to release their potency so that everything gets well blended and well mixed, but also to make the pieces smaller so they're more likely to stick to the candle once I put the candle in the blend, which I will show you what I mean by that when it comes to this time. Now here is where my sacrifice is coming. When you are asking for big things, you generally have to make some sort of sacrifice. And it can be blood, where you prick your finger, you add some blood to it. It can be something that you give or put out into nature in some way in an effort to sacrifice that item. In this case, I'm doing something very different, which most people would be absolutely and completely horrified by my doing, and to be honest, I don't like doing this, but at the same time, I feel for the sake of this particular ritual, it's necessary. And that is, I am taking a piece of selenite and I am going to crush this stone in with the herb blend. It takes some work, it takes some time, but selenite is a very fragile crystal, and it's one that easily fragments when you apply pressure to it. And, sorry, I had something in the background. And when you keep working at it. Now this is where I'm going to say be very careful if you do this, because as you can see, it breaks up into very, very, very fine shards. You do not want to put your face near this by any means or measure, because you don't want to accidentally inhale any of that if it comes out of the mortar and pestle. Which is also why I'm using very short, see, little pieces went flying out. Hammering motions, I'm keeping the, I think this is the mortar and this is the pestle. If I'm wrong, I'll correct it. Close to the crystal as I crush it. Ooh, I know another piece came out. Something popped out. There was herb. Just making sure nothing else came out. And try to mix everything together as best as you can. I'm using very short hammering motion to crush the crystal because I want to try to keep any fragments popping out. And by keeping the mortar as close to it as possible, it helps prevent things flying out. So there is my blend. Now when it comes to making some sort of sacrifice like that, the only real crystal that you're going to have any kind of luck with shattering like this is likely going to be selenite. There are other soft crystals like galena, but galena is highly, highly, highly toxic. I don't do that. just don't do it. Selenite is not really a toxic crystal, but it's one of those that you don't want to exposed to water because it does fragment just the same as my hammering did, and it dissolves in water. But there is my blend. Some of the crystal isn't as well crushed as I would like, so there we go. Believe it or not, it did actually hurt me to do that because I hate crushing up crystals like that, but when I feel that it's necessary, I go for it. And selenite is a very easy crystal to get and replace. So there is my sacrifice for this request. Now, let me move that back some, as much as I can. Put that back in there. Some of the herbs popped out a bit. Just putting them back in, keeping that in there. Now, this next part is going to be a bit messy, and that is carving the candle. As I've discussed in previous videos, when you buy ritual candles, they leave the wick long, either for you to trim yourself, or, as I'm going to do here to kind of speed up this ritual, is knot the wick. These are a little bit more difficult to knot because the wick is covered in wax. So, if you get these from Original Botanica, just be patient with yourself. You'll get it. Now, I am not someone who's good at drawing freehand by any means or measure, but I'm going to do my best. And actually, I'm going to use my little makeup remover thing, because it's round, as kind of my guide. Many magical practitioners will carve sigils, they will carve words, dates, anything of that nature onto candles. Right now I'm going to do a very rudimentary, or attempt to, symbol for the medical field. I'm going to just try to trace around this as best as I can. Oops. Candles are not smooth, so there's little bumps and ridges and things of that nature for you to work around. And sometimes the tool will get a little bit out of control, and all you do is do your best. I am not going to try to do the snake medical symbol. The one I'm going to attempt to do is the one that's very much like a cross. When you're doing this, you always want to do the carving first. As you can see, I'm a little bit off center, but it's not, it doesn't have to be perfect. As you do the carving, just try to Keep thinking of the community or the group that you're asking help for. Okay. I don't know if you can see that very well. So I'll try to just across within a circle. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put dragon's blood oil from Azure Green on my hands. If you have not seen my previous videos, don't do this unless you are absolutely certain that the oil is safe on your skin. I have worked with this oil many times. I do not have an issue with it. However, you always want to cut essential oils with a carrier oil so as to prevent any sort of dermatitis or interaction. And what I'm doing is I'm starting from the base, going around in a circle, and I'm putting the dragon's blood oil on the candle. And it may take more, and that's okay. My hands are a bit dry from washing up my hands so much, so it may take a bit more. Or you can do another technique that I am going to use for a couple reasons. One, using a brush to help coat the candle in oil increases the amount of oil that gets on the candle, but also because I am doing a very rudimentary sigil, and keep in mind you can look up sigils on the internet, but they're other people's sigils. It's okay to make your own. For me, my sigil is literally one for the medical community. Just trying to make sure I'm not getting any wax on the brush when I dip it in. And the reason why I'm especially painting the candle in the sigil area is I'm going to put glitter on it. Now when it comes to doing ritual work, you don't have to put glitter on things, but it helps give the request and the magical work you're doing a boost. So I'm just going to do that, and there it is. Just looking for the lid for the oil so I can put the rest of the brush on it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a brush and I'm going to very carefully open the glitter. And I'm going to dip the brush in the glitter. And I'm going to slowly apply the glitter where I want it to go. Red isn't just a color for love, it's a color for courage and bravery. I prefer to do it this way so that I'm not getting glitter all over myself if I can prevent it. So first I applied some red. And it's okay if it goes a little bit outside the lines. It's not, doesn't have to be precise. Each time I get a different color, I use a different brush. I don't really want to mix up the colors. Black is for protection. See, I'm already getting it everywhere. Just grabbing some of the oil off the candle. Trying to do my best to get the black in the lines. Okay. Try to wipe off the excess. Actually, let me do that with the red one too, because I didn't do that. Just shaking off any extra. Okay, I'm feeling the color purple. Not just because it's my favorite color, but it has its own purpose as well. Which I will put the color purposes on the screen for each one that I'm using. I'm just trying to keep the momentum going as much as I can. Let me see. Try to get a little bit of oil on that. And it's okay to dip your brush in oil to get the glitter to stick. Just try not to dip it back in the oil or do a separate container if you have to re-dip. Just keep in mind the glitters that you're using are pretty much going to be exclusive for this purpose. And obviously I don't recommend dipping into a oil that has some sort of specific use applied to it, like healing oil or money drawing oil. If you were to dip your brush in any kind of oil, I would recommend it be something pretty neutral, like dragon's blood oil, which is something that basically gives strength to what you do. Or olive oil. If you don't have dragon's blood oil, you don't have to use it. Again, your magic is your own, and nobody can tell you what you can and cannot do. I'm just giving basic guidelines and recommendations. I'm just trying to get the excess glitter off so that when I put the brush in the holder, I don't have glitter getting stuck all around inside that too. And the last color I'm going to use is blue, which is specifically for healing. Got a lot of that one off. So I'm going to try. I don't know if it's going to work or not. Get it as much as I can in this outer ring. This is probably going to end up all messed up anyway by the time I'm done with it, but that's okay. My key purpose is to try to get as much glitter as I can on the area that I carved. Getting the excess glitter off. Basically what I'm doing is I'm turning the brush as I drag it across the paper towel in an effort to get every little piece of glitter that's stuck to it off. Let me put the carving tool to the side, and then I'm just going to take the plain brush that has no glitter on it and wasn't used for any glitter purposes, just the oil. And I'm going to paint the candle, avoiding any areas that have glitter. That's why you do the glitter section first. Because what I'm going to do afterwards is I am going to roll this in the crystal and herb blend. You just want to kind of paint the candle as much as you can. Trying not to get too close to the glitter area. Simply because I don't want to get glitter in my oil. Okay, so have coated that in as much oil. Let me just do around the top. Again, I'm doing this in a circular, clockwise motion because it is something that I'm asking for, not something I'm trying to get rid of. Let me put this on here. Move this off to the side. I have some red glitter on the table. There's that. God, I can hear Robert Welsh and Nady from Pop Lux right now. Glitter, the herpes of the cosmetic community. And I'm looking for something, just anything. My paper towels have disappeared from this room. I suspect I know who took them. Anyway, I will get them back at some point. Close up the oil, put it to the side. Now, you don't need to dump it all on the paper towel. As a matter of fact, I recommend you don't do that. And remember, you can use this blend more than once. You don't have to use it all at once. And just trying to make sure that you get a bit of everything. Do just like that. And do your best to coat the candle as much as you can. Trying not to put your hands in the glitter. See what I mean about what I said? The glitter will get all over the candle and it's okay. Remember, your key goal is to just get as much of this on the candle as possible. Be very careful when you're doing this. You don't want to run your hands over the candle, especially with the crystal shards. You don't want to get that stuck in your skin at all. And remember, after you do this, wash your hands. You don't want to get this stuff all over yourself, and I'll run the risk of the crystal pieces getting embedded in your skin, because that would suck. Be very, very careful when doing this. Do that. Put the candle in the candle holder. You may run into some slight resistance because the candle has now had stuff applied to the outside of it. Put that in there, put this in here, so as not to come on. Okay. Trying to very carefully brush off any excess herb or glitter off my hands or crystal. Just be really, really careful. So I had a piece of crystal shard trying to get into my finger right then. That's why I said you be very careful with this. Very careful. If you feel more comfortable, you can always crush the crystal separate if that's a thing that you want to do and add to your candle. And then just use a small spoon or something to spoon it over the top of the crystal or the candle afterwards. You don't have to mix it into your herb blend like I did. Okay. Folding up the paper towel. Just adding in every piece that I can. I try not to waste anything if I can prevent it. Just that one big piece. And that way any remaining glitter that ended up on the paper towel also gets on the candle as well. It's just little pieces of the berries that landed on the outside. And that is how you make your own carved ritual candle. If you were to order something like this specially made from Original Botanica, it would cost you $40. This is why I'm saying that it's cheaper to do things like buy the glitters or buy little miniature craft glitter off Amazon or something. Ooh, another piece of the crystal. Red piece of glitter. The herpes of the cosmetic world. I'm not monetized. I can get away with this right now. I was saying that right now. But yeah, if you were to specially request a healing candle, or if you were to buy a healing candle or a candle for this purpose, it would be much more expensive than making it yourself. I think the candle itself in the container was $7.95. The glitters were a few bucks each. Obviously, the first time that you buy the herbs and the glitters and everything, it's going to be more expensive on the initial purchase, but you still have a ton of product after you do so. I still have a ton of herbs, and that herb blend that I made, it's more than one use. So once you have these things, you can do stuff like this and have it cost you much less than if you were to request that this type of candle be made for you by a botanica or by another magical practitioner, and you put your own energy into it, and you can control what's used, and you can control the sigil and the markings and everything of that nature. By doing so, you can fine-tune and tailor the candle to the specific purpose that you're looking to do. So I hope this demonstration is helpful for you. And I am going to bring this candle downstairs and light it downstairs where it's safe and where I can keep an eye on it while it burns to ensure that the strength and the love and the support and the energy that I put into this candle is able to go out and go forth to the medical community as much as I can. I work in the healthcare industry, but I'm not on the front line. I'm in kind of like the second line support system, because I provide, through the company that I work for, a service to the people who work on the front line. So if I can help them in any way on top of that, I want to try to do that, because right now they need all the help they can get. And if you want to pause this video and channel your energy into this candle to help send your love to them, to help send your strength to them, to help send your courage to them, healing to them, strength, go right ahead and do that. Every person, every bit of energy, and every bit of strength helps. And with that, I hope this video finds you well, and I wish all of you the brightest blessings the world has to offer. And until next time, blessed be.